This is Cobbler's peg. This is one of those true global citizens of the wild herb, wild plant world. Now, this is one you should definitely invest time in understanding and working with. Now, we're going to look at this from a food potential. In this particular lecture, we'll look at the medicinal side of this particular species in a great deal of depth in the medical side of wild plants for survival use course offering. First, let's look at identifying it. This guy has a trifoliate grouping of leaves. Two small, one large leaf. These leaves can be narrower or more pronounced, depending on the individual species itself. Usually a yellow flower or a yellow flower with white petals is indicative of the species as well. The ones that you're most likely to encounter are Bidens pilosa and Bidens alba. Now, don't get caught up on the specifics of individual members of that group. From a survival rationale, all of the Cobbler's peg family are useful. All are possessing edible potential and all have medicinal properties. So whilst we collectively refer to them as Cobbler's pegs, they're all Bidens species. This particular individual that I'm looking at is probably going to be Bidens bipinnata, going on its leaf structure and the colour of its flower head and the nature of its seed head. The identifying feature, though, for all the Cobbler's peg family is that seed head. That very characteristic closed peg type seed head arrangement that's proffered and gets onto every part of your clothing as you're walking through the bush. Right? So that's very easy to identify. If you look down literally and see that all over your clothing, you know you've got food. The distribution for this particular species of plant is, as we said, almost global. It's likely to have originated in the Americas, but it is found all through Europe, all through the UK, all the way down through Africa, into Asia, down into Australasia, and the Pacific Island areas. So it's a very global plant. Now, from an investment of time and energy into the learning of plant, this is one of the ones that meets all those criteria. The nutrient load of this particular plant, it's very high in protein. For a plant, it's a good protein source for us. While it's not a complete protein, it is a high protein provider. It is also very high in essential nutrients such as calcium, iron, potassium, vitamin C, and magnesium. Those are all essential nutrients for a human being to be able to sustain ourselves. Now, we utilize this plant in its edible form, either raw as a pot herb, so cooked in water, and or it can be dried and preserved for future use. It's the young leaves that we go for in the main. The older leaves, like all species, tend to be more bitter and a lot more fibrous. So we go for the young, tender, new leaves, and the flower is edible, and the seeds can be ground into a flour of sorts. So it's got a lot of the aerial parts of the plant being made available to us as a food source. It's used globally as a food source, despite the fact it's often renowned or infamous for being a weed. So they're the three main ways we utilize the plant. For me personally, I use this as walking forage. I pluck off the baby leaves and just eat them. And it has a bitter taste, but it's a good bitter. This is Cobbler's peg, Bidens pilosa, Bidens alba, in this case Bidens bipinnata. All of them, from a survival rationale, we collectively use, and they're all verified anecdotally and now scientifically as viable food and medicine options. This is the Bidens species of plants.